Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CASS's business support podcast, your go-to resource for practical business advice and expert insights.
Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CASS's business support podcast. And today we're going to tackle a subject that is becoming more non-negotiable in business, sustainability and ESG. I'm delighted to say that today I'm joined by Hannah Montgomery.
Hello, everybody.
And she'll do her own introduction in a second. And David Whitehouse.
Hello.
And he'll do his own introduction in a second. So, sustainability and ESG, massive topic, close to these two guys' hearts. Mm-hmm. And we'll ask them a little bit about what it means to them shortly. Hannah, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you do it, and then we'll do the same for Dave.
Yeah, no, thanks, Paul. Hello, I'm Hannah and I am a co-founder of a Lichfield-based not-for-profit called Grace Cares, and we're on a mission to make care sustainable. So predominantly, she says, showing off her top, we deal with pre-loved care equipment, and we also offer ESG and sustainability training to care providers nationwide and lots of other things, but related to sustainability. They're the main things.
Fabulous, thank you. And Dave?
So I'm David. I run In Life. We're a web design digital marketing agency. And we sort of jumped into sustainability ball pit about 18 months ago because we were renting a big 1,200 square foot office space, which had pool table, arcade machines, wasting lots of electricity. And then after COVID, we realised nobody was coming to it anymore. And the way the world was going, we realised it was a complete waste of space. So we looked into somewhere to buy where we could build our own unique, fully sustainable office, but combine sustainability with technology, with smart sensors and water irrigation, things like that, and create a combo of the two for sort of the office of the future.
Well, so both definitely, both thought provokers and leaders in change.
We'll try.
Some might say.
Okay, so actually, I mean, I suppose the big red herring in all of this is what does sustainability mean, and ESG to a certain extent, but sustainability mean in business terms? I think that's really important. And I think, Dave, if we ask you that first, because you've been through that change directly in your own business.
Yeah, so I realised that we need to do a change in the way the government's going and so on, and that corporations now are looking to use more sustainable businesses. So a combination of like doing what's right and actually doing what's going to be the future of business was sort of our spark for doing that. And when I start looking into it, you see a lot of businesses do things like, for every website you buy, we'll plant a tree. And then you realise, we did like the carbon literacy training, which was to Hannah, and you realise actually that's carbon offsetting and it just doesn't really work. It's kind of like, saying, I've done something bad, but I've done something good, so that's okay.
Oh, it's the trees.
Yeah.
The trees have even been planted if they're not going to reputable price.
So I just scrapped I didn't read. You've said ESG like 3 times. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like I've literally just done what I thought was best in my head. So literally we built an office, built it all sustainable materials, looked for sustainable insulation, used locally sourced wood, just completely tried to just do it completely off grid. The best way I thought necessary, combine it with technology, so creating a smart automation that's got presence sensors, so it detects where people are, lights on, turn on accordingly, turn off if they're not in the room. When the rain gets full, it waters all the plants. Literally just do what I think would be the office of the future if I was to create it without, Hannah was really useful when I had this idea, gave me a lot of advice on things to go and courses to do, and so on. But in terms of the way of doing it, it was like, well, I'm just going to do what I think is best for the planet and the way the office of the future should be, and see what happens. So that's how we sort of delved into it.
So let's just, and I think you're right, we've mentioned ESG a couple of times. So environmental, sustainability and governance is the official, and it's the government tagline really, as opposed to something that I've been clever or Hannah's been clever and come up with, because I am absolutely not that by
I thought it was what they used to put in Chinese food.
Oh, yeah.
That's MSG, isn't
it?
Yeah. So, oh dear me. And Hannah, obviously, Grace Cares very, very much around probably one of the biggest unknown waste producers. And obviously we've had some conversations prior to the podcast, and I'm astounded by what happens in care. So yeah, if you sort of talk about that journey, because I think that actually dovetails nicely what people are trying to do in business.
Yeah, well, no one really understood the waste that is within care. Everyone's going, the NHS is on its knees and social care is on its knees and we all need this. And I'm like, well, why are we throwing equipment in a skip then? So people would go back. You get your crutches, you get your Zimmer frame, then you go back to try and hand them back. But the NHS haven't got those maintenance divisions anymore. They haven't got the space anymore to keep it and clean it. And bizarrely, the NHS work in so many different silos. They don't really know what's happening over there that's good. So one NHS trust might take everything back and one might not. And they never communicate.
Yeah, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
Yeah, so we work with 4 NHS trusts at the moment and they donate their care equipment to us. We also have a partnership with Staffordshire County Council. So across they've got 14 tip sites, but across 12, I should call them HWRCs, Household Waste Recycling Centres. They have pods and they'll collect the care equipment to us. Then it comes and we kind of clean it, maintain it. If it needs infection control level, we can even do that. We can do murder scene clean level on it. Believe it or not, you have to pay extra for that, but we can. And we do PAT testing if it's electric, Lola testing if it's for manual handling and what have you. So it's all good to go. And then it gets sold on at half the original price or less. And you just think that's madness. And some people don't have enough money even at that point. So that's cool. We have a hardship grant pot that's now managed by the Community Foundation, Staffordshire and Shropshire, but it's open nationwide. They're just managing the funds for us. So that's for health and social care workers nationwide. So that's health workers, paramedics, nurses, what have you, and also social care workers. So people that work, care professionals in a care home or domiciliary care, supported living, stuff like that. And we also have a funding pot for the over 70s, so anyone 70 and above. So sometimes we may have someone that comes to the unit that needs a piece of equipment and we can just tell that they, even at half price, they can't afford that electric wheelchair at 250 quid.
It is. It's the true recycling, isn't it? But I think it's horrifying to think that an entity, an organisation, a national organisation has got probably the worst disposable attitude ever, and maybe I'm wrong to say that, but that ability for one that's got from all of the, and this isn't a political podcast by any stretch, but it's got the biggest budget of, I'm going to say, people interaction, but it's got the biggest attitude towards not recycling. That's scary.
I think it's regulatory as well, and it's fear of infection and trying to understand, cross-contamination and is that then going to cause, where's the blame? It's a blame culture, isn't it? You don't want to be sued.
Yes.
Don't want to just burn it.
Yeah, it is. And I think that sort of attitude is probably hurting more than it is aiding. Obviously, you've both gone on these journeys around sustainability. Has that impacted your ability to transact business? So, David, you're very much you're not very much. You're a private business where profits are important. But have you seen those an upturn in profitability because customers are coming to you on the back of your, I'm going to call them greener credentials, as opposed to just the fact that you've got this fantastic eco lodge?
Yeah, that's a hard one to log, really, and considering what we do is tracking where business comes from digitally, it's a hard one. We've not had anybody actively say, "Oh, we've came to you because you are green," but we have had people say, "Oh, I like the way that's available," and I think it is going to become more prominent because, like, all the hosting we do is powered by 100% renewable energy.
Yeah,
and now coming into play, and Hannah knows more about this than me, that companies are being now forced to log what suppliers they're using. If you earn over a certain amount, they have to say, well, this is who we're using, and are they green?
Yeah.
So I feel like we're easing into that place, but we're already there. Whereas I feel like a lot of business, when this starts happening and it does start dropping, they're going to panic. What can we do? Buy some trees.
You're right. And we'll touch later on the podcast about some of the tools to keep this a little bit of county, some of the tools that can help you identify those supply chains and how green they are, and actually how green you are. But as I say, we'll touch on those a little bit later. And obviously, Hannah, for you, I guess it's about being able to recycle and generate that cash. And has that been well received? Because I remember when when we first met you as Grace Cares, and we took on that little bit of pro bono, I think is the phrase, bookkeeping for you, you were getting in more than you were able to sell out the other end because there's this reluctance. But are now people starting to see a recycled item is better than brand new?
I think they're beginning to trust in Grace Cares. We've been going for 2.5 years now, and I think that credibility piece is there. But in terms of money saving and bringing it back to money, how more cost effective is it for you to run the office that you're running now, possibly with more staff than you did before than previously when you had that huger unit?
Yeah, it is more cost effective for us to run this because obviously, well, it's on my own land, so that's one part of it. But then also that the electricity is being on and off accordingly, and all managed by ourselves. On the flip side of the thing, it's more expensive to buy sustainable equipment. So buying sustainable insulation costs more than buying regular insulation. But it's finding that balance in upcycling like you have as well. So overall, running the business, is more cost effective. But to get to that point is a bit more costly to begin with, I think.
Yeah, and that kind of was my next point, was about how do we bounce back the cost that the government, accountants and professional bodies are championing. We've got to become more sustainable. But the kickback that we've found with our clients has always been, but it's too expensive to make that transition.
Yeah.
And I guess your comment about, well, it's more cost effective to run once you've done it, but doing it is always a challenge. And because you are very much leading that charge and that change, you're, for want of a better phrase, being penalised because it's not cost effective, but those costs will naturally come down the more and more people buy into it is the future.
And it is more cost effective for us, but other companies, if you're buying and selling and saying, well, buy from the UK instead of buying from China and saving on shipping, that's probably not going to be cost effective for them going forwards. That's probably going to cost them more going forward, which in turn then ups their prices.
Yeah.
So it is
it is. I think it's a vicious circle, but I think there's a generation, and again, we'll touch on it a little bit later, but there's a generational shift where we've now been asked, when potential clients come to us, what's your sustainability policy, or do you have one? Are you registered with somebody like B Corp? Have you got carbon literate citizens working for you? So I think gone are the days of what's your cost. I think it's now more about those holistic, what we would historically have considered peripheral questions are now starting to come to the fore.
And I think with bigger companies, and that's because they're being forced to do it at that point, but it is going to...
It's filtering down,
isn't it?
I would imagine by 2030, even the sole trader doing £50,000 a year is going to have some form of sustainability requirements.
Well, we were the first major economy at the United Nations to go, we're going to be net zero by 2050, and we were the first ones. So people don't understand that at that standpoint, we've already agreed to that.
Well, didn't we initially say something like 2030, and then they went back and went, actually, let's put it back a bit.
But it's going to happen. It's a bit like, and if you're not sure, go and check out our previous podcasts on Making Tax Digital. People think it's not going to happen, but these things are going to come. And the earlier you embrace them, the more you're already prepared for them when they become mandatory, because there's no changes to make.
But terminology changes with it and people don't completely understand. So with the regulator in the care system, the CQC for England anyway, they call it environmental sustainability. Then you've got ESG. Then you've got net zero. Then you've got sustainability for this. So people are like, are we even talking, comparing
Is it all the same language?
What are we all talking about?
That's why I said I literally just stopped looking at everything else and just thought, well, I'll do what I think's best. Yeah. And we got some chickens because I thought it'd be great to give Stan some eggs.
But again, I guess
why not? That seems sustainable.
Yeah, we're not going to get a couple come across the table, are we? Yet?
I can go and get some in.
I guess before we kind of just move on, then I think it's probably right to say everyone's going to have to do it, but the timing is all about when it's right for you in your own business cycles. And if you can adopt some early stuff early that is not going to impinge, then it's all going to help with that transition to be mandated to do it.
And something you touched on, which I would definitely recommend, that Hannah recommended to me was the carbon literacy training. I thought that was brilliant, and it was funded by, because we're in Staffordshire, it's funded by SPEN, but I think it's funded all the way around.
Yeah, I think everyone.
And I expected to go there and then go, oh, it's all your fault to look at, but it wasn't. It was really honest and open, and
we've all done it now at CASS. Well, I say we've all done it apart from me. And I'm
the royal we.
Yeah. And I'm enrolled at the end of this month, so hopefully we'll again. And it's just another credential that you can sing about, you can shout about, and just adds a little bit.
So you'll become. I think once so many staff have done it, you become. Is it a gold or platinum?
Bronze,
like
and you can apply to become a carbon literate company,
and
then you can kind of go through the scales of that.
It makes it easier for us to go for something like B Corp, which again for us is on our own roadmap, and businesses. I think once you embrace this change that is coming, it'll help you naturally push through where you ultimately want to go. And B Corp is one that we've actually been asked for a big client.
They're changing how they do that now. So you could, as long as you've got 80 points, you could be B Corp, and there's different elements of it. Or they were finding like the big bad boy, like Coca-Cola or whatever, were getting the 80 points easy, but still doing some naughty bad things over here. So they're looking B Corp are almost changing how they're doing that, but they are the one that people.
Yeah, it's the one certainly in the accounting industry that there are lots of accountants now have recognised it's where they need to be. We're on that journey. Is it an easy journey? No, it isn't, because it's a complete change almost of the way that you work. We're now conscious of where we buy. We don't use some of the big online shopping places because it doesn't tick the boxes of where we're trying to go. So yeah, I think sustainability and where we are and where we're going will ultimately.
People asked you about carbon calculations for you to do the accounting of their carbon.
Yes, and we're now offering that. And there are various platforms, and again, we'll touch on the ones that we kind of recommended. But yeah, we've now started to ask, and are now offering as a little bit of an add-on service for those that want to go on that journey. There are some great tools out there that will just tap into your zero, and for those that use other platforms, there are various ones. We're very much entrenched in zero, so they tap in and they'll just look at all of your supply chain, all of your bills, and tell you basically where you where they carbon.
You spoke to me about that then. I didn't know that was
so that's that. But these are all things that it's constantly evolving. 12 months ago there was one. We now are aware of 4, and they're just springing up all over the place.
Just checking the credentials though. So some of the bigger care players that are over millions have had to sign up to this scheme called ESOS, ESOS, and they're having to do carbon reporting and all their carbon footprint. But they can't just ask Google or ask AI. They have to have a qualified auditor to do it. So it depends on the level of which you are as well. So we are finding, so I have to report to the NHS every month. When they give us stuff, I have to say what carbon footprint that saved, and then the S of the ESG, so the social stuff, where that money's gone, which is cool. So I can say, we sold the bed for 350 quid that you gave us. That saved X amount of carbon, and that 350 quid went to X care worker and helped them do this. What do you do? They love it. So what we're now doing a kind of mini program with Birmingham City University, and their accounting students are helping me calculate the carbon footprint of absolutely every single piece of care equipment that we deal with. So therefore on our website, when care providers buy from us, they can buy on an account and they can run off a report that then hopefully will say, hello, I'm looking at David because he doesn't actually know that I'm wanting to do this yet, and here's our web done. So here we go, this is what we wanted to do. But then that's going to make people buy from us. And if you can offer that as a service as an accountant, if there's some way that you're, that's going to give you that little extra.
That's it. I think it's all about those. I mean, we talk about it in accounting world all the time, and definitely what we do. It's the added value. The cost doesn't go up for the client, but the value that you can bring to the table far outweighs the cost that they pay.
And I think it's looking for smarter ways to do things. So, as an example, I'm a trustee on a charity, but would be a friend. And Bromford have been told, the big Bromford housing company, they've been told, right, you've got to, wherever you're building houses now, you've got to offset and do a load of social stuff. Before it was costing them, I think, a lot of money to do that themselves. But now what they're doing is looking at charities like this and going, well, here's a plot of land. We're going to give you that plot of land. You run a wellbeing garden, and so they're working a cleverer way of doing it.
Yeah.
Or not having to do it themselves, but giving it to charities who will then go and report back and are brilliant. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Give us a plot of land, and they're going to run that on there. I think that's a smarter way of doing it without costing them so much money, but they're still adhering to that social responsibility.
Fabulous.
That makes sense.
It does, absolutely. So we've spoken about sort of how we've got where we are and what that journey is starting to look like, but how now, and probably Hannah, more towards you with your marketing experience pre-Grace Cares and alongside Grace Cares, how can we kind of weave this message, this ESG, this sustainability, call too many S's in there, this sustainability piece into that marketing to let people know that we're championing it and that we're at the forefront of pushing for change?
Well, first of all, actually want to do it. They're going to see greenwashing straight away. They're going to go, yeah, right, okay, you're planting a tree. But if it is something, so maybe start even with the basics of a survey. Go out to your customers, go to your staff, go to other stakeholders, ask them what they think is important, in a sustainable way, what their thoughts are, what they'd like to see you doing, what they think should be done, and collate all of their ideas so you've got at least some basis of something to start with. And then have a look at your vision and your mission. And if that aligns with you and everyone's on the same journey with you from the offset, because that's the hardest thing, to get staff along with it, then you change what our main mission is. We're on a mission to make care sustainable. We do that in several different ways. But ultimately, everything we do, we kind of go, is that going to make care sustainable? Yes. Okay, cool. Well, then we'll go along with that. So, and then it's put across our website. It's put across your socials. It's consistently put through every single stream of communication to show that you are genuine, and every action that you do pulls into that mission and value piece. And
have you, Dave, embraced any of that kind of positivity around what you've done as part of your own marketing and given people an insight into, we've done this, not necessarily to sell it, but actually just to say we're on that journey?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So on the homepage of our website now, we've got the whole sustainability showing that we're working from what we call the Eco Lodge. Yeah. And we've got a whole page about that, and we did a whole video blog.
If you haven't checked it, Dave, tell them where they can go and watch that, because it was brilliant.
Yeah, if you just go to YouTube and type in Life Design or Eco Lodge, and it'll come up on there. So it's us building it, not having a clue what we're doing, getting things wrong. A bit of dancing, random stuff. But our whole journey of doing it from literally the old office to this one. So we logged all that as well, had a bit of fun with it. And on every quote we send out now about our hosting, we've got the little powered by 100% green energy. So just like Hannah said, your mission's there. And we're just saying, actually, anything we have done that can be related, we're saying, actually, we've done this now. Yeah. That's part of it.
It's a lot of subliminal things, so that those that are aware of it are already seeing that it's there, but it's subliminally planting seeds for those that perhaps want to explore it and go, well, actually, if I've got two web design companies, one's following a little bit of a similar ethos to me, and one is couldn't care less, I'm running this huge office and et cetera, then I know where actually that next generation of probably entrepreneur and business owner is going to look.
And even something as simple as getting that carbon literate company badge in the footer of your website, the B Corp, because like you said, people are looking for it, will see it.
Yeah, then. That's it. Absolutely.
Do companies need investment as well? Because actually banks are now, and investors are investing on certain green measurements. So if your company's doing certain things, it depends on the industry into which you're selling into as well. If they've got regulatory requirements, go and have a look at those and see what your customers are having to deal with. Then you can sculpt your message to be aligned with that.
Yeah. And I also think with certainly with Staffordshire, where obviously we're based similar to David, we've got the ability to tap into grants. So one of the big things that we did when we started our journey was we had the local energy and sustainability consultant come out and do a review of our existing office. And they came back with a load of recommendations and said, oh, by the way, our windows had been in since 1982 when the office was built. You can have a grant for 50% of that. So whilst it's still a chunk of money to replace all of the windows there were two wins for us. We were able to reduce our energy usage, not by a huge amount, but by 5%.
Yep.
So our energy bills came down. And we got some nice new windows with 50% from a grant pot. And so if people are wanting to go on that journey, that's a great one for us, is talk to your local authority, see if there are any pots, grants, even just the ability to have a consultant come out and tell you what can be done. But one little, I suppose, story around us for sustainability. One of the things that came back, we don't have gas in our office, it's all electric. And the energy consultant looked at putting solar panels on the roof, which we can do. But because we're all electric, we had the issue of our electric heaters are on in the winter when you're pulling less energy through the panels. And in the summer, you're gaining all this electricity, but not using it. And the sell cost back to the grid meant that we would get a 77-year payback on our solar panels. So that sometimes, with all of the will in the world, the accountant in me and the financial man said, I cannot justify a 77-year payback on putting them on our roof. Even if we put the batteries in, the draw on it was such that we never get payback. So we did a compromise, and we've been able to get funding to replace all of our electric heaters with an air conditioning unit, which are a lot more cost efficient to run, of which we'll get buyback in, I think it's about 14 years. So whilst it's not an immediate return, it's a return that says now our electricity bills will go down, but our, to use the phrase, carbon footprint has now reduced massively because we're not pulling as much of a resource out of the planet. So just one little story. And have you, either of you, got any other kind of stories around?
We had an energy audit done for free by the SBEN, so the Staffordshire Business and Environmental Network. But there's Sustainability West Midlands, so wherever you are, there will be, hopefully, if you go out to your local authority, but there's loads of grants and free support that is out there because they need to be seen to be supporting them.
Yeah, we had the same energy assessment done for them as well.
And they're worth their weight in gold for me, because it will tell you what can you do, what the cost is to do it. And as we alluded earlier on in the podcast, it then helps you make those informed decisions of, can I afford to do it? Because above anything else, this has to come back to, can my business afford to make what is an investment with, on the outset, no tangible immediate return? And I think that's the key. But if you're an established business that wants to go on that journey, there are ways to make that absolutely work, either through the grant or through that recognition that businesses that have got a similar mindset are likely to come and work with you as opposed to somebody else.
And that's just going to snowball.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
In social care, they're finding, so care homes are saying to me that care is notoriously hard to recruit in, and they're saying that now the younger generation that are coming and applying for jobs are actually asking them what the sustainability credentials are. So actually for recruitment and retention, whether that be industry wide, that could be something to look at. And people that are looking for care are asking, what are you doing environmental? So it's coming from all different aspects. So it won't just be, and if your competitors are doing it and you're not doing it, and we're obliged as a nation that we've signed up to do something, then you really are going to be left behind.
And I guess then, so we've spoken about what we need to do or what we'd like to do rather than what we need to do, because at the minute it's a voluntary, unless your business is of a certain size with a certain number of employees where it is mandatory. And well, good luck to them, I think, is the game, especially with everything changing. But if we bring it a little bit more kind of down to those SMEs, those small and medium-sized businesses, if we're going to do this and we think then about, well, how we're going to market this, how does the sustainability and that little bit of awareness on the environment impact on how we market what we're doing? Because I think it's all right saying we're going to do all of this, but we know firsthand, direct mail, where you're sending out bits of paper or shoe boxes, as we've done in the past, there's an impact on the environment and on sustainability with that. So it's, how can we make sure then, if we're going to push out that we're S-Ben or we're B Corp or we're fully sustainable, we're carbon neutral, and you all get the flavour of. There are so many different terminologies, but ultimately, how do we get that message out that doesn't almost become counterintuitive to what we're saying we're doing?
Well, it's actually having a credence behind what you say. Well, I was on a panel discussion at the CASS show in London, and there's this guy called Dr. Matthew Sawyer, and he's ace. He's done this tool for carbon calculation for GPs. He's all about it. And he was going around all the SANs, and they had like B Corp or we're a carbon neutral company, and he's like, "Tell me what that means. What have you done?"
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, my boss just told me to say it. We don't really know." So I think it's actually just being credible. It's actually David's approach is better, going and doing what you think is right and writing it down as opposed to.
Yeah, we don't want a box ticking exercise.
Yeah.
I think that's.
And I think with marketing as well, again, now you can, like, we had some brochures done for a show, but specifically asked, can we have them on recycled paper?
Yeah.
And again, it costs more.
Yeah.
But it's being, active to think about, okay, what am I doing? And once you've followed that journey, like I say, I knew nothing and we just invented a lot of it, but then Hannah recommended me to go on the car and I've learned through that.
Yeah.
So now I know, like, okay, so that's not going to be great for the environment, or ordering from there, or you start to
There's a
learn.
conscious, it becomes a subconscious decision rather than that, oh, I need to do. There's just, and we're certainly the same now. It's that if we have got to print, and as a digital-based firm, we try and avoid it where we can, but where we have, it is recycled paper. And if we're not printing back to back, we will then, assuming it's not sensitive data, we will then reuse that for note taking, and then it all gets shredded as opposed to just put in a general waste bin. And that's a quick win, isn't it? Is to actually in your office, 3 bins, paper and cards, tins or cans and plastic bottles, and then technically your food waste, your non-recyclable stuff. And we make a point of using that in the office, and that's just a quick win that everybody could adopt today. And even if it's making the smallest of differences around the sustainability, it has to.
And that stuff once you've done it, you don't even think about it. You just reminded me that we've literally got a split bin now for the recycling and regular. It's just something that's there now. It's just natural.
Just part of it, isn't it? Just part of it. So I think what we've done so far is really to get to grips with what's happened, or what's happened, what's happening, and how we can kind of tackle that the best way that we can. So I think we've touched on some big bit, but what can we do that are quick wins, that are small things that we might think are small, that we could all do tomorrow? And just before the break, we touched on the recycle bins, but what other things are you two aware of that either you've done or that needs to be done, that aren't going to financially hurt businesses, but can be quite rewarding both from a outward facing but also an inward facing perspective? David, if we ask you first. The
simplest one that we've done is lights automation throughout the office. And I say it's simple for us because we understand technology a bit more, but again, somebody could be able to help them out, I presume. But setting up that automation, so we've got a presence sensor, and that's not a motion sensor. It detects presence, how many people are in the office and where they're walking to. And if they're over in that space, it'll turn the lights on there. If nobody's over there for a while, it'll turn the lights off there. So that's not only helping the environment, it's helped us our cost for electricity. Yeah. And then we've got the smart automation in the air source heat pump. So it detects what the temperature is outside. And if it's below a certain degrees, it sets itself to this. If it's above a certain degrees, it sets itself to this. So it's not always on an always on air conditioner that's constantly churning up, and it turns itself off and at certain times. And so things like that, you can, especially bulbs. Yeah. Bulbs are cheap. That's a quick win. Yeah. The sensor.
Or for the electricians that tune into this, lamps. A bulb you plant in the ground. Someone always said to me, a bulb goes in the ground, a lamp lights your room.
Oh, there you go. A lamp. A lamp. Yeah, lamps. And even the sensors aren't that much money to connect. You can get a sensor set up for less than 100 quid.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they're going to add lots of value on your bottom line. Yeah, because they're going to reduce your energy. consumption, which is in turn same as a few pennies, but also it's another step on that quick win when it comes to those audits that, when we spoke earlier, are going to be mandatory for all of us at some point.
Yeah.
I would say ban the use of single-use plastics. Ban it.
Yeah.
Just ban it. What some clients have done of mine is new starters. They've done new starter packs with a like thermos flask, but with the brand on, and other reusable, sustainable gifts that kind of give them a hug, but it sets the intention straight away. There's a model that the NHS use called the 9 R's, which is actually 10 R's because they start at 0, but it's like the 3 R's on steroids. So that kind of embraces the circular economy. And the best thing that you can do if something isn't sustainable is refuse it. And it kind of goes through these 9 R's. So I would note, go and have a look at that, because that is something you can align yourself with. I would definitely say a quick win would be to go onto the United Nations website and look at those 17 Sustainable Development Goals and see how you align with each and every single one of them to build your initial policy.
Yeah. And I think one of the quick wins, especially if it is in your county council, local authority, is get yourself an audit. Get an audit, because it's not going to cost you anything if they are funded, and most of them are, because again, it's a government commitment. Get that audit, because that will just help you work out, what can I do? What can I afford to do? What's a long-term or a medium-term and a long-term aspiration? And those quick wins, we've got it. Our office is going through a bit of a refurb as we speak, but we've gone for the motion sensors only because of the nature of our environment. Everybody works in the office rather than home working, but actually the sensors of different people in different parts of the office would probably mean that most of our lights are on at the same time because everyone's flitting around. So but we've gone for motion sensors as part of that refurb, but to retrofit them, we were told they were 40 quid, including the electrician coming in. So it is a no-brainer.
Data as well. Data is king. So you can get people to come and do the audit, but then get your base level of all the data that you're using at the minute. So as long as you've been in your premises for over 12 months, you'll have a year's worth of data for your energy. Then you get your water, you look at your technology, you look at your transport, your business travel and your suppliers. And then you know where your baseline is. So then you can report and you can put that your plan is going to be, we want to reduce this by 10% in the next year or whatever. Then you've got a goal in order to which to do and bring it into all of your staff meetings. Like, what would the planet think? I've been reading this book called Can Marketing Save the Planet, which is a good book. I would advise you read it, and it's really succinct and it gives you loads of yummy actions at the end of each chapter. But it kind of says to bring the planet as a stakeholder in all of your meetings. So you go, we're going to make this decision. Cool. What does Paul think? What does David think? What does the planet think? Like, what impact is that going to make?
I'm just imagining the voice of the planet now.
Okay. No, I say no. I don't know. That's my planet voice, but there you go.
Yeah. And I think, again, if we pull this into kind of that accounting arena, because hopefully people have tuned in just for a little bit of accounting tips. If you're using Xero, and we touched on it earlier, there are 4 that we now recommend to our Xero users. Someday, Kogo, Trace and Greenly. And it's not a plug for any of them, but if you go and have a look at Sumday, SUMDAY, and you're a Xero user, you can have that. If you sign up now, you can have that free for a year. And what that does is that taps into your accounting software. And as I said earlier, we'll plug into and look at all of your suppliers, assuming that you hold the right data and are capturing bills, and check a previous podcast if you're unsure on the tools to use like Dext. But it will then give you a little bit of an insight into the sustainability of that as both a company, but also those products that you're buying based on the category codes that you are assigning to those purchases. So it just going to help with that. Where am I buying from? That knowledge of, do I want to buy from the biggest online platform, or am I going to nip into the local shop and keep things? But again, it's then trying to understand, where are they buying it from? Because if they're buying it in a container from China, but it just helps plot all of that and helps you make those informed decisions.
At least top level. It's up to you how deep you want to go.
It is. It's exactly that. And ultimately, I think you can use it as deep or as high level as you want, and you can become quite obsessed with it. So we've got someday attached to our zero, and I sit there now, and instead of looking at what the numbers are telling me, I'm now looking at what do the numbers tell me, but what do my green credentials against those numbers say? Because there is going to be in the future, certainly from everything we've read and the courses we've been on, there's going to be a direct correlation between business revenue and business profits and us operating, trading under sustainability and its current guise, ESG. So yeah, I think that for us is a big consideration, and that's the piece we're going to try and roll out to lots of the clients that we manage on a day-to-day basis. It's awkward for those that we don't manage, but we host their zero subscriptions, but it's on newsletters, it's going to filter through. And by newsletters, they're all electronic. We don't send paper ones out anymore. So yeah, I think there's loads of things that are coming to help give people those insights, because and I'm sure you probably think, I'm hoping you think the same, at the minute it's quite intangible. What is the impact that we're having? Unless you do that digging, all we keep hearing about is the world is changing, it's heating up, and but it's a high level, and I don't think you ever realise, well, actually at our level, at business level, what is that impact? How am I impacting on it?
Yeah, and I think you have almost got to have a limit, because you can just go so deep.
Yeah,
like on the carbon literacy training, they were talking about like the top level companies now. Some of them have to measure how much rubber is coming off your shoes when walking. I've stopped driving to work, so I'm walking to work. What rubber is coming off your shoes? Even emails have an effect on the environment, because it costs a server somewhere to send it, and it's like, there's only so far we can go. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, we look at our own, at just almost our supply line, together with what we're putting back into the environment. So, like we say, with the move from electric heaters to electric heaters on a timer, but now into those efficient air conditioning units. So there are things that you can do that you don't need to dig too deep.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think we could become hung up on, and then actually we're all going to have to recruit somebody else to manage our environmental policies. And
you could make it fun. And if you wanted to get the S of the ESG in, maybe you could get someone from the local college, university that's studying sustainability to almost be your sustainability mentor. So they're getting work experience and they're helping you once a month, maybe jumping on a sustainability call that you're on with the staff, and you're brainstorming stuff. So they're getting work experience. You're knowing the up-to-date knowledge, so you haven't got to deep dive and learn. It's just another thing for a business owner to do. Like, thankfully I can get someone to do my website and someone to do my bookkeeping and accounting and all of that and keep me compliant there. But now I've got to do this. I just like making bricks. That's what I do, whatever it is. So there's got to be other ways that you can think outside the box and get kind of staff involved and staff excited. What do you think we should do next?
Well, I think that's like anything in business, isn't it? It's if you want to change a piece of software, if you want to bring in a different working pattern, you have to get the staff buy-in. Otherwise, you're swimming against the tide, and actually you end up failing because that buy-in isn't there. So get your buy-in. What are the risks do you guys perceive if we don't, over the next probably 3 to 5 years, all start on that journey? I'm not going to say embrace it fully, because I think we all appreciate there are cost limitations to going in both feet. But what do you think the impact's going to be in the next 3 to 5, maybe 10 years if people bury their head in the sand and go, it's not going to affect me?
Total apocalypse. Madness, cats, dogs living together, World War VIII.
Yes, I can see it. But you'd say that. Southwark Council ruled that a girl died of air pollution. She had a severe asthma attack.
Really?
And Southwark Council, that it was years then that it was like being debated, and they went, yes, air pollution killed that girl.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about the planet's getting hot. We have this thing called the warming stripes. There's a doctor that does it. And every single year, there is another stripe that goes on. Believe it or not, though we're cold and we think it's raining all of the time, 2023 and 2024 were the hottest year on records, 2023 being the hottest one. Like, we literally, there's wildfires, there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening. So actually, I think not just businesses, so then there's going to be new business opportunity because those people that can help with natural disasters are going to be onto a good one. But we're all going to have to change. The whole environment in which we live in is going to change. How we live is going to change. Health and social care is going to be affected. If we are eating food from the soil that isn't of high quality, we are then giving ourselves more disabilities. We as a nation aren't going to. It's bigger than businesses. Your home life.
It's been logged that we're almost too late as well.
Yeah.
We are starting too late, so we've got to do something to shift to catch up.
Yeah, I think when you look at things like the wildfires and the polar ice caps melting, I think there's been very much, and maybe I'm a bit too blasé on this, it doesn't affect me because it's happening up at the North Pole or the South Pole or in Australia or in the Middle East, the floods that are over there. It's not affecting me until it affects me. So flooding, I mean, we're now sort of, you look at flood defences down in Tewkesbury and all of that. 20 years ago, didn't have to worry. But now those floods are getting more severe and more regular, and it's starting to hit home that we have to make those changes. And you can't just leave it to the big boys, I don't think. I think we've all got to now embrace those changes.
And the thing is, obviously, there's also the argument, the fact that it could be just, it might not be us causing those things because planetary has a shift anyway. And there's the argument. But even if that is the case, is that an excuse not to do the right thing anyway?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You still got to kind of do the right thing anyway, what's best for the planet anyway. So you can't use that, well, I'm not going to do anything because I don't believe in all that.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean you should still throw litter on the floor, does it? Do you know what I mean? You do the right thing regardless of
people do business
the
with
way it's
people
going
that
to
they like
go.
and that they trust.
Yeah.
If your ethos is to be a good egg, then you be a good egg through everything, and then people can see that, and people are going to naturally want to gravitate to you. But at a bigger level, you've got tenders. So when governments and the NHS are tendering for things, dear Lord, you need to jump through those hoops and show that you've got those credentials and show all these steps. And as you say, then as an onward supplier, if they're going to be buying, so yes, I'm never tendering for the NHS. No, but you might have something that is a cog within government, or your big client, that is their big one. So they want to know who their suppliers is, like you said earlier. So there will be a stage where they come and ask you for your credentials, and you'll be wiped off preferred suppliers list and everything.
And I know, David, you kind of touched on this at the very start, but what advice would you give to a business owner that we've sparked a conscience to now go and do things in a more sustainable way? What would you say to someone that wants to start?
So I think, first of all, common sense. Obviously, if it feels right, if it doesn't seem like it's the right thing, that's the smallest of little things you can do. Up to then, like you said, looking at your local government, certainly look at the carbon literacy training if you can get that funded free, because that'll help a lot and give you just those small changes. You don't have to delve in and start tracking the rubber on your shoes. It's literally the tiniest little bit, like the quick wins that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Just common sense, those little bits, and don't panic about it yet. And especially like what Hannah said, you can also look to schools or colleges as somebody to come in and perhaps even do this for you and help you do it. So I reached out to Hannah when we started looking at it, and Hannah was a massive help for me learning.
It's tap into people that are, I'm going to say, further on that journey, that have been there, that have done it, have learned from the mistakes, and will pass that knowledge on. Yeah. Because ultimately, I think doing nothing is no longer an excuse. And to flip that, doing something is better than doing nothing. Yeah. Whether it's 100% the right way, doing something has got a bigger impact than sitting back and going, nah, not for me.
Yeah, compound effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to wrap it up for today, on what has been something a little bit different, not a lot of accounting, but that's really good. David, I'm going to pitch this at you first, and then Hannah will finish with yourself. Give us one digital or creative innovation that you've seen or utilised that has made sustainability appear more achievable.
Oh, that's a tough one. Appear more achievable. I think really just utilising green energy more, potentially green energy in terms of hosting, in terms of where you're stored online and where the servers are stored. We now only use servers that are hosted by green powered energy.
Yep.
So anybody,
so that's a question that anybody that's looking to either set up a website or
look at your current website,
ask the question.
It's a simple one. There's a I can't remember the name of it now, but there's a little special acronym badge as well where your energy is stored for your hosting. Look at that, and if not, it's a simple switch, and it does not really cost that more.
No. Fabulous. And right, let's get the little piece of paper that we've tried to hide, because I do have a question for Hannah to wrap it up. How can businesses use partnerships and community involvement to feel that they are gaining credibility and visibility?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one. That's kind of what Grace Cares is all about. So in terms of the care partners and the NHS that give to us, we give them the monthly impact reports of what they've helped with. But equally, as a partner, because both of you are huge supporters of Grace Cares, and we have been from the beginning, and we really appreciate that. But then we can kind of give back to you in terms of sustainability credentials. We can say, right, thank you for actually, our website has enabled us to sell this much kit, which has then given us this much money in the pot, and we've helped this many people. The accounting help has actually helped us do this, that's then helped this many people. So actually we can give you the numbers of the social good that is providing for your S of your ESG. So working with any charitable partner, well, they should be able to produce those figures. We're just able to help you with sustainability and carbon figures as well, because you from helping us. So we've saved just shy of 2,000 pieces of care equipment from landfill. We're working out the carbon fully that's done. So from helping us and all your support, that's helped reduce that carbon footprint. Then, and we can tell you where all the grants have gone, who they've gone on and helped, and all the social value stuff.
That's really cool. That's the piece that I think really hits home is we've done and we've supported, but Grace Cares are obviously the leader in this, have saved 2,000 bits of kit that are just going to go into landfill. But what you then don't quantify, or is difficult to quantify, is what social impact that has then had, but then the ripple effect. We've supported you. You've done that in terms of stopping those crutches, that wheelchair, that mobility scooter going to landfill. But what has that allowed the recipient of that to suddenly then go and be able to do, not just in terms of their own quality of life, but how's that's impacted on their wider community? So again, we talk about that ripple effect.
Yep.
So brilliant. Right. So that's a wrap on giving you more than numbers this time. A massive thank you to David from In Life Design. Go and check out his website. And Hannah from Goldust Marketing and founder of Grace Cares. Ask yourself a question. What can I be doing to improve the sustainability of not just my business, but actually the environment? And if you've got any questions or topics you'd love us to cover, please drop us an email or check out our own socials. They'll all be at the end of this podcast. And that's it for this time. See you again soon.
Thanks for listening to Giving You More Than Numbers. Subscribe for more business insights from Team CASS.